Hello, this is Dr. Robert Smith, chiropractic internist again.
Today I want to talk to you about when we get inside the cell, after all the receptors we've been talking about, the 105 that are of note that can be acted upon by the cell, all activity basically goes inside the cell. And what we start to notice is that health and disease begin right here. Once we've gotten here, now we have to consider what's inside the cell that we know about that is important to us. The biggest one we realize is we've known about the nucleus for a long time. We've also been talking about something called the mitochondria since the 1960s when it was discovered. But what we found out about this little powerhouse is that each cell contains between 50 to 2,000 of these little powerhouses, and they make a big difference in the way everything works and runs. So anything that we do that has an impact on the mitochondria is going to have an impact on the cellular health, and it turns out the mitochondria is continually in constant communication with the nucleus and the process that basically makes proteins called the endoplasmic reticulum. That whole process is orchestrating the use of all the fuel that comes in, all the nutrients that come in, and this mitochondrial pile has a big effect on signaling outside of the cell. So once the cell is running at capacity and it starts making reactive stress reactions, if they become too high because we're feeding too much sugar or too much particular types of fats, this cell's overload of the signals becomes significant enough to where it starts producing chemicals that says to the nucleus to produce certain types of lipids that will downplay the ability of that cell to take on more sugar. So that fuel source now will be blocked, and this is the beginning of what we talk about when we talk about insulin resistance happening on the cellular level. It's a wonderful adaptive situation because that particular cell, once it has all the energy it needs, it will allow the other cells to pick up and start taking on more insulin and more fuel. Our problem becomes when we have too much across the entire board, and all these mitochondria and all these cells are now incapable of taking on more. Medically, what we've been doing is putting in medications to force these receptors, these gateways, to allow more sugar inside. The problem with that is the signaling mechanism turns out to have more than just one or two pathways. They've identified now in excess of several hundred, where this cell basically in that signaling process is not only telling you it's got too much fuel, it also is telling you that it's making chemicals that have an effect on inflammation. So on a cellular level, that inflammation gets higher and higher as a result of this high blood sugar. High blood sugar in and of itself turns out to be an inflammatory process on the outside of the cell that's transferred inside the cell. That shuts down these mitochondria. They in turn make more inflammatory signals that go out and get into the body. That process basically leads to generalized inflammation systemically. This is the beginnings of not only type 2 diabetes, but it also is the beginnings of all the reactive arthritis type problems that we know about. Because as these cellular mediators get higher and higher, we now are having inflammation. This is where nutrition comes in to be critical of understanding how to stop some of these processes. It turns out that combined lipid therapies, taking certain types of oils into your diet, will help to mitigate some of the problems that this causes. Having the right nutrients that allows for the system to run more effectively will make a big difference for you. So as we go back inside the cell and we look at these mitochondria stack that are producing all this energy, and now they're producing reactive oxygen stress problems that are signaling back outside the cell, we begin to appreciate what caused all this was increased calcium coming into the cell along with the nutrient overload. The absence of enough vitamins, the absence of the right minerals, the absence of the right fats combine to make this problem a continual cycle that will not shut down. So you end up with the outside appearance of you have inflammation now that you're experiencing throughout your entire body of what's referred to as a low grade. The problem is when we talk about this cellular reactivity, most of this starts happening as a result of not just being anywhere in your body. The initial problems this usually starts at is in the intestines, because all cells, including the intestinal cells, have mitochondria. So these become a problem. These chemicals that are released now are circulated into the bloodstream. This goes across and goes into your brain, your nervous system. Your whole body becomes inflamed. This whole process becomes an inflammatory driven process. Food matters, and more than what we appreciate as to what we eat, it's also what we're feeding the flora that exists inside the intestines. Because as that food is being fed, nutrients that make chemicals that will cause problems to break apart, those will be absorbed. They go into the bloodstream. They act upon the mitochondria of all the cells now. So it becomes a negative feedback cycle that leads to more and more inflammation. This is why learning about how to consume the right foods, get the right nutrients, will make a big difference. We can help you with this because this will give you the opportunity to change your entire way of how you feel.
If you need some help, feel free to contact me and schedule a time where we can get together. You can find me on the web at brspine.com. You can reach us in the phone by 225-291-2626. Call today or whenever you can. I look forward to talking to you.